overcoming social eating temptation. Two things you're going to need. First off is the ability to say no, overcoming a fear of man, which I'm going to dive into a little bit deeper. Second thing is you need an actual strategy to walk into social eating scenarios and not like have to be a health freak, because there's two sides to every coin here. Part of it is, yes, we need the deep spiritual conviction, self-control, discipline, ability to say no, etc., aggressiveness there. That is part of it required. That's what's going to keep you consistent in cases where strategy goes out the window. But you also need strategy too. You need strategy too. Like, let's just be real here. If you could go into 4th of July and still enjoy it and have fun and eat really good food without completely blowing up your fitness, that would be great, right? Awesome. Okay, cool. We're on the same page. Fantastic. Just to make a somewhat wild but still, I believe, logically consistent analogy, think about when Paul is talking about sexual morality and he's like, guys, if you can't control yourselves, freaking get married. Now, ideally, you can control yourselves, right? So let's talk about that. But if you can't, get married. Maybe I'm a psychopath for putting that in here. Maybe I'm not. Maybe that's just how I think about it. Maybe it makes sense. But the social temptation and the strategy. Stick around for the strategy, because if you don't have a strategy, again, like, the strategy is the ideal. Now, when you show up to 4th of July, regardless of how good your strategy is, you're going to be faced with a moment where somebody, wants to hand you a beer, or somebody's just like burger or hot dog type thing, and it's going to be so easy to just be like burger or hot dog, like, oh my gosh. And then you're going to think to yourself, I should probably just say no, I'm good. And then if you say no, I'm good, they're going to be like, what, really? Like, come on, man, just have a burger or hot dog or beer or whatever. And then you're going to, get into that discussion of, oh no, I'm trying to take care of my fitness. And they're going to be like, come on, man, like, it's 4th of July, right? This is where you need to overcome having a fear of man. And this might be a family member, this might be your best bud, but this is when you need to remember that Jesus himself didn't come with conviction to make everybody happy. He didn't care that the truth was going to literally divide, like father from son and brother from sister and son from mother. He came with the truth, with his conviction, and he stood on it regardless of what anybody else thought. And if you are really serious about great physical stewardship, if you're really serious about the example that you're setting for your kids with that physical stewardship, if you're really serious in that taking care of your body is something that empowers your God-given mission, then that conviction should be strong enough for you to not be afraid if other people think you're a little bit intense, right? Like, you don't apologize for your business goals. Hopefully you don't. You don't apologize for going to church. You don't apologize for your beliefs on other social issues. But for some reason, when it comes to food, it's like, oh my gosh, I want to offend them. I've got to eat it, right? No, you don't. Stand on your conviction. Don't have a fear of man. If you feel truly convicted that God is calling you to steward your body well for his glory and for the empowerment of you and your mission, stand on that. And be okay with a little bit of awkwardness. Be okay with your family or friends kind of being like, what, really? Like, you're that serious? Like, yeah, I'm that serious. It's that serious to me. And take that as an opportunity to lead instead of conform to a pattern of the world where everybody is just eating and eating and eating and eating and eating. Okay, so that's how I think through it. I'm not saying this is easy. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be a process we opt into that involves difficulty that allows God to work in our hearts. Because truly, like, this might sound small to some people, but it can be a really intense moment where you're faced with, am I going to stand on my convictions and commitments, or am I going to cave to the pressure? And it's an opportunity to practice how you would do that in bigger things. Just saying. So that's the first part. Now, second part, strategically, what can we do? Ultimately, the problem with 4th of July is that you're going to be, potentially consuming an excessive amount of calories and setting back, maybe weeks of progress, depending on how overboard, somebody goes. And so you can plan ahead. This is probably the most practical way to do it. For lack of planning, a nation falls, right? But victory is won in many advisors. So you need to know what your caloric goal should be each day. Okay, go to MyFitnessPal, put in your info, be honest about it. It's going to give you a good ballpark range if you have no idea what that is. And just start there, right? Let's say it's 2,000 calories a day or something like that. And think about what's probably going to be there at 4th of July, hot dogs, burgers, maybe a bunch of fruit and random cookies, and plan through, like, what are you going to eat that day? 4th of July. right? You can go in the app and scroll all the way to that day and plug in what you are planning on eating that day ahead of time. Even if it's going to be slightly over your calorie goal, I'll get to that in a sec, but you can plan it in ahead of time. This is like planning for expenses. Like nobody would call you crazy for knowing you have a certain bill coming out on a certain day and making sure your accounts are up to date so that that bill can be handled. Nobody calls you crazy for basic accounting, for basic finance planning. You understand where all those things are at and you plan accordingly to make sure everything's good. You can do the same with your physical stewardship. That's not crazy. That's not weird. That's not over the top. That's not tedious. That's not being a health freak. That's just being responsible. We can plan for when we're going to eat more calories than typical, okay? Now, you are faced with that decision of, am I going to adhere to my calorie goal of 2,000 calories a day, which is fine, or am I going to go slightly over that calorie goal? Now, if you are thinking you'd like to go slightly over that calorie goal, which there's a bunch of nuance there, that's going to be impossible for me to get into this video, then you can always plan ahead by just eating slightly fewer calories in the days leading up to that. I don't recommend trying to do that afterwards because it's just far less likely. But if you say, I'm going to go for 2,300 calories on the 4th of July, then you can go 1,900, 1,900, 1,900, 2,300, and you're still right on pace. But please, for the love of all, that is anything, plan it. Do not show up expecting to trust willpower that's failed you over the last 15, 20 years. Okay, plan it. Have that internal built-in accountability. Make a public announcement to somebody who you actually care what they think. Okay, not your buddy who's got the beer belly and is just going to be drinking a bunch of beers. To your wife, who's, your word actually means something to her. Make that public commitment. Hold yourself accountable. Plan ahead. And just be ready to face those moments where people are just going to kind of be like, come on, man. And practice just standing up to them and not caring about what they think, because that's probably going to benefit you elsewhere. So hope this busts you. See you in the next.